This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
All right, World Cup update. They just put a graphic on the screen showing Lukaku's goal scoring in his history, like an international play. Like 10 seconds later, he scores. Now, here's the deal. It's 1-1. They're going back and looking at it right now. I believe it's an own goal, Paulie, the way it looks. But they credited Lukaku in the box score. Is that correct?
As of now, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
They could correct that. But it's 1-1 hydration break time, 67th minute.
Yep.
They corrected it to an own goal.
That's the third of the tournament already, I believe.
And you have what, under 10.5?
Yeah. A team to rally from behind and win was 11-1. If that cashes, because Belgium's been great in the second half.
We head out here to the Progressive guest line. Nick Whalen joins the program now. Does a great job with RotoWire and on a daily basis here, Monday through Friday on VSiN. Prop Points, 1 o'clock Eastern time with Jeff Erickson. Nick, thanks for the time today. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys, but the basketball season is over. I'm missing it already. At least we got the draft, 8 days away. But after that, we're going to go into, a bit of a rough period for me here as an NFL and NBA guy.
Well, I said this, Paul and I talked about this to begin the show. I don't know how that series did not go over 5.5 games. That's a horrible beat. Hence us not getting one more game this week, which I can't believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question. I was looking this up the other night because, once again on Saturday, it felt like we just kind of watched the same game that we've seen at least 3 other times in these finals. And even the game that the Spurs won followed a pretty similar script, which is San Antonio coming out hot, building a double-digit lead in the first quarter. And then, especially as the series went along, we just kind of knew it was inevitable that the Knicks, even though they're down 13 to 17 to 20 plus even in one of these games, you just knew they were going to rally back. But the Knicks ended up leading for 23%, guys, of a series that they won in 5 games, which is remarkable.
Yes, well said. How do you feel about them next year and this incredible team that closed 15-1 with a record margin of victory? If Boston stays pat, doesn't get Giannis, how do you feel about the Knicks running it back next year and their chances?
Well, the Giannis to Boston thing is starting to feel more and more real. Depending on what you read, it sounds like he's going to Miami one day and then Boston the next. So we'll see where he ends up. But even in a scenario where they get Giannis, I don't know that I'm ready to just fully lock in the Boston Celtics. They'll be the betting favorite and rightfully so. But do we know Giannis will be available? Jason Tatum is still coming off of an Achilles. It's likely going to cost them Jaylen Brown. They're not just adding Giannis to the current team. So I think the Knicks should be viewed as kind of right there with Boston. But it is interesting because it's a totally different conversation than the one we were having this time last year when OKC, even though it took them 7 games, and I didn't think it should have taken 7 games to beat that Pacers team, it wasn't, well, will OKC be the favorites next year? It was, who's beating this team for the next decade? And for as dominant as the Knicks were over the last month, I don't think anybody really feels that way about this team, even though Mitchell Robinson is kind of the only piece they could lose this offseason. It is a slightly older team, I guess, in the fact that, they're not led by like a 23, 24-year-old, like so many of these great players in the NBA right now. But there's no reason to believe that the New York Knicks should really fall off. But I don't think anybody looks at them and says, oh, they're just going to run the Eastern Conference for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I'm looking right now, Poly Market. So Giannis's next team odds, by the way, this has been moving all over the place this morning.
Yeah.
Miami currently sitting as a 40% chance to get him. That's plus 150. Boston is at 35%. To me, if he goes to Miami, they're going to gut their entire team, and I'm not going to expect much from the Heat next year.
That's the thing. I mean, it would put a ton of pressure on Giannis to not only play at an extremely high level, but stay healthy the entire season and even in the regular season, right? I think with a lot of these stars, we just think, well, if they're healthy for the playoffs, and maybe he's at that level where that's what you need. But the East is going to be deep enough and competitive enough that if Giannis misses 20 plus games in the regular season, the Heat could be like the 6th or the 7th seed. There's just not going to be that much around him in Miami. And, Boston, I think, would certainly be a better supporting cast, but a lot of those guys that we were praising throughout the regular season, the Derek Whites and the Peyton Pritchards and the Baylor Shiremans, I thought kind of fell off as the year went along. So I don't necessarily feel like Boston, if they send out Jaylen Brown, if they bring in Giannis Antetokounmpo, again, they'll be a very, very good team. But I don't know that I would look at the Celtics and say, man, who's beating them in the East? I still think it's going to be a really, really competitive conference.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great situation with San Antonio and how well Harper played. And Wembanyama can just go reach out to Duncan and say, help me with a low post game. But you want to talk about horrific timing? that how Fox killed you, and now the 4 for $229 extension kicks in, and it'd be tough to move him. What would you do with this if you're San Antonio?
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, especially with how Fox played to close out the series, right? It was one thing to make the mistakes that he did in the big comeback game, but then to respond and go 3 of 15 from the field, along with Castle going 1 for 10. And there were some kind of weird comments, I thought, from Devin Vassell, who let it slip that Dylan Harper maybe wasn't happy with his role during the regular season. This is something that the Spurs are going to have to address. The idea of getting off the Fox contract, maybe it's something they look into, but as you alluded, it's not nearly as easy as you would think, right? I mean, there are teams that would love to bring in De'Aaron Fox, the player. How many teams are going to be willing to take that contract? Are we already to the point where San Antonio would almost have to pay to get off of it? Mm-hmm. Maybe. Fox's value is probably as low as it's been this very moment in a long time. But at the same time, De'Aaron Fox is still a really good player. He's been an all-star to a borderline all-star for most of his career. So I think if I'm San Antonio, I'm not panicking quite yet, just because, there were like 2.5 bad games from De'Aaron Fox. Yes, they came at the worst possible time, but I don't look at this as some sort of like albatross contract that's going to be a glaring negative for them.
Let's follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Nick Whalen with RotoWire. Also a daily show here on VSiN Monday through Friday called Prop Points at 1 o'clock Eastern time on the Progressive Guest Line. The team I was making a case for, and I bet last night, it's to come out of the West, not the East, but it's Utah. I'm going to love their roster. I don't know how you don't. Next year entering this season, 150 to 1 to win the West. I want all of it, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk you out of it. I think we could be looking at a team that makes like an all-time year-over-year leap, partially because they've been tanking for 2.5 years at this point. We're not used to the Utah Jazz even trying to win games, but man, I think they're fine with Peterson. They're fine with DeBonsa. They might even be fine with Boozer. They'd be fine if they were picking fourth and adding Caleb Wilson. I mean, this team on paper, again, as far as like really bad teams go, it's about as exciting as it gets, I think, looking ahead to next year. I mean, you could be rolling out Keontae George, Darren Peterson, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, and Jaren Jackson Jr. as your starting 5, bringing Ace Bailey off the bench. When we talk about some of these futures, like obviously it would be very unexpected that the Utah Jazz are in the NBA Finals. It usually doesn't go that quickly. You usually don't see these deep underdogs make those kind of runs. But I think something that is forgotten in this conversation, especially when we're having it in mid-June, is just how much injuries impact this every single year. I mean, we could just look at these playoffs and the amount of players that I think, their absences swung series. OKC missing Jalen Williams, missing AJ Mitchell, Luka, Reeves, Ant, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid in Philly, Jason Tatum in Boston, Franz Wagner in Orlando. Some of these scenarios that seem totally implausible look a lot more plausible when injuries pop up late in the year.
Great point. Excellent. It's a war of attrition. At DraftKings, it pays 6 to 1 to go DeBansa, Boozer, and then Peterson, exact order. Are you concerned with this Peterson? Number one, the creatine, or I'm only going to talk to the Wizards. I'm not going to meet with other teams.
I've kind of been in the weeds with the draft for long enough, guys, that I'm starting to almost throw stuff like this out. I mean, we went through this wild saga with Ace Bailey this time last year where it's like, what is going on with his agent? And he's trying to maneuver his landing spot. And it's like, is he going to fall out of the top 10 or team's just not going to draft him? Didn't end up mattering whatsoever. Utah took him anyway. And by the end of the year, he looked like a pretty good pick. So with Peterson, he's kind of had this thing through the whole process where he very clearly cares about being the number 1 overall pick. I don't know if this is like messaging to, hey, I'm only going to work out for the team holding the number 1 overall pick. He's the type of prospect that is not going to fall out of the top 3, in my opinion. I think people are going to be willing to make a lot of excuses for him. We still don't know exactly what was going on at Kansas, but the good tape with him is so good that I just don't really see NBA teams overlooking that. I mean, these teams have a long history of taking swings on guys who have had much bigger question marks than Peterson.
In about a minute left here, do you have a bet tonight in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, this is what happens when we don't have NBA on the slate. I got to, start exercising my baseball betting chops. On our show, I took the over 9 in Rays Dodgers. I do not trust either pitcher here. We got Nick Martinez going up against Eric Lauer. Lauer in particular has been incredibly shaky. He's allowed at least 1 homer in 9 straight starts. He's got a 5.56 ERA, a 1.3 whip in that span. Last 3 games that he has pitched in, because he's allowing so many runs, the Dodgers then have a little more urgency offensively. Those games have ended 15, 11, and 21 runs. 7 of his last 9 starts have been a game that produced at least 9 runs. So we'll take the over 9 in Rays Dodgers.
Very good. Follow Nick on X, by the way, at Whalen, but replace the letter L with the number 1. So WHA1EN. And you can hear him every single day, Monday through Friday, with Jeff Erickson on Prop Points at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Thanks, Nick. Best of luck tonight.
You too, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Join us here on the Progressive Guest Line. 1-1 right now, approaching the 78th minute, Belgium, and they're pressing again. I took a little bit on them at plus 140 to win the match before we get into extra time coming up in about 13 minutes.
Draw $1.30.
Okay. Win, lose up next. This is why June is so good, this year particularly. It might be a lengthier version today than Paul runs down during the football season. That's coming up next.
Let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. I've got something for you that almost feels too good to be true. First, credit where credit's due. If you're listening to this podcast, you're already leveling up your betting game. You're riding along with our best bets and top angles. And when there's a good game on, you're getting involved with a few props and alt markets as well. There's one more layer if you really want to step things up, and that's VSiN Pro. I've mentioned it before, but things are only getting better for our pro subscribers. We just rolled out our MLB prop projections, breaking down some of the best edges across strikeouts, hits, home runs, and more. And that's on top of everything else pro subscribers already get, including public betting splits, expert picks, and betting guides across the sports calendar. If you haven't tried it yet, stop sleeping on it. You can get your first month just $9.99 or save big with promo code POD26 on the annual subscription. Hit the link in the description and start cashing in with VSiN Pro. All right, back to the show.
Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah. This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
We're live in Vegas. Circa Resort and Casino is the spot. Thanks for watching on YouTube TV, listening on Sirius XM channel 158, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, or any of our affiliates across the country. Belgium and Egypt finished in a 1-1 draw. I lost a bet there on Belgium plus 140 live, but both teams to score did come in, and more on the World Cup now as we start the hour by going out to the Progressive Guest Line. Anthony DeBundo joins the program covering the World Cup for Ringer. Anthony, thanks for the time today. How are you?
I'm good. I am enjoying all the draws. It's been very fun. You know, I know that the casual soccer fan, maybe watches every once in a while, doesn't love a draw, but the scenes as Cape Verde essentially beat Spain 0-0 today were amazing.
Yeah, it really is. So has that been your strategy? Did you do that starting like last Thursday when we had the first couple of matches that day? Because I know Paulie, my co-host here, talked about this in the first hour. How many units are you up betting the draw?
20 units.
Up 20 units so far, betting every match to end in a draw.
Yeah, no, I have not bet the draw in a single match, so I guess I don't actually, I'm not actually profiting off of this potential strategy. But you know, I actually think, you know, as we get later into the group stage, the draws will become less prevalent in this format, especially since the magic number, the 3 points, is so important for advancing, that if you have these teams, you know, 1 point each on the final day or whatnot, that draw is not going to be enough. And I actually think you saw that a little bit in Ivory Coast, Ecuador. Both teams knowing they have Curacao in the group, knowing that, you know, the draw wasn't going to suit them. That game was very open in the final 10, 15 minutes. Neither team seemed to want the draw, and Ivory Coast scored late, but it was a pretty open game.
Excellent point there. Very good. What your takeaway from what we did, how impressive USA was Friday, is that the group has really opened up? It's time to raise the power rating on USA, or was it more of an indictment of Paraguay?
I think it's more of a raise the power rating on the United States. I mean, I was more bullish, I think, than most on this team, and even I was blown away by how easy they made it look. We've watched the United States go through CONCACAF qualifiers and struggle to keep control of matches against island nations and other smaller minnows, teams that are much worse and much less talented than Paraguay. So the ability of them to completely strangle that match was significant. I mean, 23-2 in box touches in the first half in favor of the United States. The counter press when they lost possession of the ball was amazing. The ability for McKennie and Tillman to make those little runs in behind the center backs to get into those wide areas and then create the overloads. It was so awesome. And then, of course, Balogun, I mean, the kind of striker the U.S. has really never had in terms of just pure strikers. So so much encouraging signs for the U.S. This is a very fragile setup, right? They have an injury-prone team. But right now, everybody's healthy. And when that's the case, this is still the most talented group. I think they're very live. And, maybe the biggest takeaway from today, Spain drawing, Belgium drawing, both were overwhelming group favorites.
Mm-hmm.
The way the path sets up, if the U.S. does win the group, their most likely round of 16 opponent would be whoever won Belgium's group. And their most likely quarterfinal opponent would be whoever won Spain's group. So instead of maybe Belgium and Spain, now the door just cracks open. Maybe it's not going to be Belgium. Maybe it's not going to be Spain. And all of a sudden you're looking at this draw and you're saying, hey, wait a second. Like, there's a world where the draw breaks in favor of the U.S. They don't have to play, two of the top 10 teams in the world, perhaps, en route to a potential quarterfinal or even semifinal. So we'll see, right? Spain, Belgium still favored to win their groups. But there's just a crack now, a little crack. And if the U.S. can win this group, they might get a favorable draw.
Well, how nuts do you want to get here? Well, like, if it falls correctly for this team, like, what are we talking about for a ceiling, in your opinion?
It all depends on how the draw breaks. I mean, we watched Croatia, right, make a World Cup final. They didn't take out any world-beating teams until the semi, and that was 2018 when they upset England in extra time, right? So you just want to be in with a chance, and the draws in the past have gotten imbalanced before. I mean, it's not the most shocking thing. We saw, Turkey was in the Euro quarterfinals. I don't think they were a particularly great team at the last tournament 2 summers ago, but they get Austria in the round of 16. They get by them, and then they're leading the Dutch right there and on the verge of the semifinal before the Dutch turn that match around. So if you get a favorable draw, I mean, right now their most likely round of 32 opponent is Bosnia or Canada. They'd be favored there. If all of a sudden it's not Belgium and you get Egypt, per se, in the round of 16, they'd be favored there. And then if it's not Spain, is it Uruguay? I mean, I don't think they're that much worse than Uruguay. I think they're pretty comparable. So, we'll see how the bracket ends up going. I don't think they can beat Spain, but in one soccer match, the way this team plays in transition, like they're going to be decently live.
Let's follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We're talking World Cup with Anthony Dabbundo with The Ringer, and he's covering the 2026 World Cup for them. Okay, so you mentioned Uruguay. Your rankings going into this match tonight for the teams, obviously in the World Cup. You have Uruguay 17th overall, Saudi Arabia 39th. Probably not the same version of Saudi that we saw in 2022 knock off Argentina early on in that tournament. And Uruguay is favored by a goal. Do you have a bet on this game or any advice to bet it tonight?
Yeah, I took some under 2.5 at minus 120. Now, it has steamed out a good bit today. I wouldn't go past 130. So, shop around, see what's still available. Because the under's taking some money. What we're seeing in some of these hotter games, and I think you saw it a little bit in Egypt and Belgium, because it's pretty hot in Seattle today. Do you just see the output go down? The press isn't as intense. The number of shots and goals, and this has been studied. I mean, when games are above 85 degrees Fahrenheit, you don't see the same level of output in the matches. And I think Uruguay, despite their, being, you would think, more acclimated, they're pretty far south in South America, but also they like to play a very frenetic, intense pressing style. That is Bielsa ball at its finest. And honestly, one of the things that's been kind of a question mark about Uruguay's situation coming into this tournament is that some of the players, and Luis Suarez most notably, who's not on this roster, had complained about Bielsa being too intense and requiring too much of them. And so, how far does Bielsa turn the dial up on the intensity of the press? It's a very good defensive team with some questions in how they're going to score goals. And the Saudis, look, they've been through turmoil. I mean, they were so bad under Hervé Renard here toward the recent matches, and at the Gold Cup last summer, they fired him. I mean, he had a historic win for them at the World Cup in 2022, went to go manage the French women, came back, then they fired him. They have a new manager, so we're not really sure. It's a bit of a black box on what Saudi Arabia is going to look like at this World Cup, but we do know they're very lacking in attacking quality. Even that game that they beat Argentina, 2 goals on 3 total shots. I mean, it was not a great attacking performance. So I did take some under here. I just don't trust Uruguay to get margin.
Do you have anything on Iran versus New Zealand? And in your rankings again at ringer.com, Iran 33rd overall, New Zealand 45th.
Yeah, I mean, Iran's a tough team here. I mean, the tough team to handicap because of the travel situation, right? They're traveling in day of game. So they're at a disadvantage there. Now, the market has taken a liking to Iran.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to agree with it. I mean, they opened around minus 105, which I thought was cheap. Now they're out like minus 125, minus 130. I think that's probably where it should be. So not necessarily an edge for me there. Market also took heavy money into the under. New Zealand's a tough team because we really have zero data on them in competitive matches. They play their games against the other island nations in Oceania. They don't have any competitive matches besides friendlies, and like the maybe the most concerning and weird result we saw out of any in the entire lead up to this World Cup was Haiti beat New Zealand 4-0. And Chris Wood is the main talisman for New Zealand. He's barely played soccer this year. So how fit is he as their striker, as their player that they rely so much on for their attack? I don't know. I agree with them both market moves, and I think now the value is kind of been bet out of Iran if you wanted to bet them early in the week.
Okay. How about on Wednesday? England is -0.5 a goal, -140 against Croatia. Do you think there's that much separation between those two countries?
It's so funny because England is a team that can be difficult to power rate just because they smush the variance down to dust. I mean, they are such a low event team. And, it's interesting because if you ask any English fan or you ask any, a lot of pundits will say like England's defense, just based purely on the talent and some of the names on the sheet, people are a little bit dubious of what England's defense is. But then you look at their actual kind of like qualifying numbers and what we've seen this team do at every international tournament for 5 years with Southgate and now Tuchel. They are just a defensive juggernaut who gives up nothing at all. And I think that's going to be the kind of the hallmark of this game is England is going to play a lower event match. Croatia, I think, has questions about how they handle teams who can really out-athlete them, but that's not really England's style. I mean, England plays such a low-event match, and they're very slow in how they progress the ball. So I think under 2.5, I took -132 in this game. I think under's good there, too. This is a classic 1-1 or 1-0 game where nobody's really happy about it in the English press, but it's going to be more than enough for them to be the group leader come the end of the group. They'll win the group, and then they'll do the classic England thing where they take their chances with a bunch of coin flip games in the knockouts.
Very good. Anthony, in about a minute left here. So far, let's draw a line through Germany for the sake of this discussion for a second, because they won 7-1 in their opening match. Other than them, which team has been the most impressive in your opinion?
Most impressive is tough. I think relative to expectations, I would go with Morocco. I thought the way that they turned over Brazil, got out in transition, really looked dynamic in attack, was impressive. They almost won it late, settled for that 1-1 draw. They were very impressive. Otherwise, I think Spain is going to be fine. Lamine Yamal didn't play most of the match, neither did Nico Williams. France we haven't seen yet. England we haven't seen yet. Argentina we haven't seen yet. I would downgrade Brazil a decent bit. I would downgrade Belgium for their poor attacking display today, and I would downgrade the Dutch. So really that second and third tier, kind of Morocco, Ivory Coast, two teams that are going to be dangerous in this tournament.
Very good. Follow him on X at Anthony Dabbundo, Dabbundo. Thanks for the time today, Anthony. Enjoy the matches tonight and best of luck.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. I think USA has to be in the conversation for the most impressive. Sweden scoring 5 goals.
Yep.
And I would agree. We had the Beyond the Booth on Saturday here at Circa. Great turnout. Thanks to everybody from all over the country showing up for that event. I thought Morocco looked really good against Brazil.
They did. That was a great match. Yes.
I think they're live to go on a deep run again this year.
Been some disappointments, too. I mean, the Switzerland draw was just unacceptable. The Qatar was begging to get put away, and they couldn't do it.
Talk some baseball up next, and I would like to have any future bet on this team before the season started. The team tied for first was 100-1.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We'll talk World Cup, U.S. Open, and maybe a future bet to be made in the NBA as well as we go out to the Progressive Guest Line. Longtime Vegas odds maker Jeff Sherman joins the program now. Hey, Jeff, thanks for the time today. How are you?
Doing great. How's it going, guys?
Doing really well. Can you explain to the audience what the betting result was like today for Spain, like the co-favorite to win the World Cup with France? Just a gigantic favorite to end in a draw?
Yeah, they were a $14 favorite on the 3-way price. The spread was 2.5 goals, and we took a lot of public support -2.5. And, we didn't have anyone laying $14 straight, but these lines have been up for, 5 months now. And basically Spain on the 3-way to win was tied up in every parlay. It's going to everything for the last few months. So it really took down everything involving the first set of group stage games. Plus we had things, basketball games, hockey games, things like that. So, you're talking a few months worth that went down with one swing.
You're up now 20 units if you bet every match to go to be decided by a draw. Can you tell us how you clean up every time there's a draw?
Yeah, I mean, that's very little that the public looks for that. They like to see the better team win or even take the price on the longer team outright. So you get that, and it mostly knocks down the parlays. But having two of them today, I mean, you couldn't ask for any better position from a booking standpoint.
How ugly was the result on Friday when USA really took it to Paraguay?
Yeah, that's basically the kids have enough to replenish themselves for the rest of the U.S. games throughout the tournament off that one. So they're in really good shape. It was, the largest loss of the tournament so far. And, I think you're going to see a solid handle when they play Australia on Friday based on what, the interest we saw from that game.
Is there a comp? Like, are we going to be blown away by the future liability on USA to win the whole thing?
We have liability. It's not overwhelming like we've got on some other teams. Our larger liability, relatively speaking, is Mexico. When you look at Mexico, U.S., Canada, the host countries, Mexico, they won't stop betting Mexico with us. We're 40-1, but it's six-figure liability on Mexico.
It's that time of year with the NBA, with the offseason heating up. How are you ready to maneuver if there's a Giannis trade and if LeBron to Golden State would do anything for you?
Yeah, I mean, LeBron going to Golden State, it's just a perception standpoint. We have the Warriors at 50-1, and I would move him just because of perception, but I don't think realistically it's going to do too much. But obviously we're waiting for the Giannis news because something's supposed to happen before the draft. So you're looking at the next 10 days, and, you're hearing Boston, you're hearing Miami, facilitation by maybe the Clippers comes out today if Jaylen Brown goes there. So, the one thing is, we have lower limits set on the app for the futures at this time of year. So even if that news comes out and we're adjusting and people are betting, it's nothing that's going to overwhelm us, and especially with Boston at sitting at 11-2. If Giannis went to Boston, that liability wouldn't add up too quickly. So, we're keeping an eye on that, and we'll make adjustments as we see fit.
If the Knicks, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Paul.
If the Knicks lost and Wemby was suspended, what was the number going to be Tuesday night?
Man, I would have had that thing about 7.5 on the Knicks. Yeah, well, I mean, if Wemby was playing, I thought it would have been Knicks 2.5. So, you take him out and everything that they went through, that would have been a real tough task for him. So that's where I would have started, about 7.5.
Make a number on Wemby actually getting suspended after what he did in Game 5.
No, $1 million.
Oh, come on.
Do you think no chance the NBA suspended him?
I don't think there's any chance. They reviewed that one flagrant about him hitting Brunson, and they didn't give him anything when that obviously is a flagrant. And I think at this point in the series, I don't think they would have done it. It's just he means too much for what the league and the direction is going with him. That I don't think there's any chance they would have done it.
So you made bets on the Spurs probably close to a year ago because you were all in on Wemby. You believed in them. You had huge numbers, and they almost got it done. They won the West, obviously. Have you made a bet at this point for next year?
I haven't yet. I'm looking at teams that you can do that can grow and you can work with and put yourself in a position because, I came out well with the Spurs and hedging with the Knicks. And, I had the Knights before the season too when they got Marner and hedged that one out. So even though the teams that I had wagered on didn't win, I did really well because of the positions. So right now I'm looking for that type of wager you can put yourself in on that. The only ones I can come up with right now would be Charlotte at 100-1 and Atlanta at 100-1 from the Eastern Conference perspective, because I think those teams have room to grow. And, we saw the Spurs grow and obviously much more talent than Charlotte does, but you saw some good things out of Charlotte last year. And I know there's talk about them being aggressive, maybe going after Sabonis, adding someone like that. But if they can add a piece and grow with it, I mean, they had some really nice road wins where they beat some good teams by over 20 points. And if they can sustain that and get through some playoff rounds and, which the Eastern Conference overall I still think is weaker, then you can just put yourself in a nice position. So right now I'd be looking at Charlotte or Atlanta in triple digits.
Paul the Money, Paulie and Mitch VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Jeff Sherman, Las Vegas odds maker, our guest on the Progressive Guest Line. How about the U.S. Open? And the last time it was here, at Shinnecock, Koepka won at 1 over. Take us through the work you've done and what do you think the winning score could be?
Well, I've got 278.5, which is 1.5 under par right now. And we saw in 2004, Goosen won it at 4 under. So they can get under, and, the players are better now and they evolve over time. So the one thing we have to look for is the wind this week. Thursday's supposed to be really windy. So that can, we might have a tee time advantage because it's supposed to be windier in the afternoon. So when the tee times come out, that's something to pay attention to. But it looks like it should be a windy and challenging week this week. And so right around par, I'm starting out at 1.5 under par, and I'll see what the public's going to do with it. But this is my favorite type of U.S. Open, when you get something like a target like that actually comes into play, and not something that's 9-10 under in the U.S. Open.
Do you have a number as of right now for the first round lowest score?
I'm looking at 68.5, which is 1.5 under par. So if you think someone's going to shoot 2 under or better, then that option's available, just because, like I said, we're supposed to see the worst of the wind, and it's been difficult for these guys. When I know this is quite a while back, but in 1986, Raymond Floyd won it at 1 under par, and the first round leader, there was 170 and 171. So no one broke 69 or better. And if the wind kicks up, that can be in play.
Okay. What do you have for a prop price on yes, no to a hole in one?
I've got no minus 140, yes plus 110. And part of that is wind predicated too. It looked like it could have been picked, but the challenge of the wind. So slight favor to the no on this one.
Who do you like this week, and where? Because you've had numbers up for a long time for this event as well. What have you seen in terms of sharp money for the Open?
Well, I've got 5 plays I did myself, and they're all recent, so the numbers aren't too far off. But I played Matt Fitzpatrick at 22-1, Fleetwood at 28. I'm on Russell Henley and Siwoo Kim like I've been on every major this year at 54 and 50, and then I played Victor Hovland yesterday at 80 when he was getting into contention. So those are the guys I'm starting with, but we're starting to see some sharp play show up on Xander Schauffele. He was 20-1, now he's 18-1, and I can see in the matchup market that's starting to take shape and him being respected. So he's a guy I think the sharps will be on.
Okay, let me ask you this. WNBA, you're a big fan of it. What's the path for Olivia Miles, rookie with the Minnesota Lynx, to win the MVP award?
Yeah, I know. I'm down to 20-1 on her. Oh. And I think the path would be keeping Nafisa Collier out for most of the season, and then them sustaining. If they were to get the 1 seed and she were to miss a majority of the season, and so Olivia Miles leads her, if she comes back sooner, then I think that's going to detract from her chances to win. But if Collier is out for quite a while and she's doing, so impressive what she did against the Aces on Saturday in that 4th quarter where she almost brought them to victory herself. So unbelievable. It feels like she's having a better rookie season than Caitlin Clark had. So it's pretty remarkable.
I agree. It's going to be very difficult to overcome Asia Wilson, obviously, but she's a top 5 player in the league this year already, Jeff.
Yeah, it's crazy with that Minnesota was able to add her, and, Seattle didn't take her in front of her, and Dallas too. So, she was sitting there and she's leading that team. But like you said, when it comes to MVP, Asia Wilson's just in a class by herself. It's just, there's so much separation, and she's sitting at minus $2 right now.
You can follow Jeff on X. He is at Golf Odds. Thanks so much for the time. Busiest June, best June we can remember. Enjoy it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Flash Sports High Stakes U.S. Open Challenge is live. $500 to enter. Shot at $100,000 guaranteed. Pick 6 golfers, 1 from each of 6 tiers. Your top 5 scores count. Worst golfer gets dropped. Lowest score wins. Multiple entries allowed. Build a few different entries and increase your shot at that 6-figure prize. Use promo code VSiN. Get a 50% deposit match up to $100. A free Quick Picks entry up to $20. And 100% Quick Picks payout boost on entry up to 20. Splashsports.com, code VSiN. Got to be 21. Splashsports.com, code VSiN. Excellent. 500 to get in. Good luck. And I think that 2018, this is when Mickelson swatted his ball and took the 2-stroke penalty. He was so outraged.
I had to make a bet on this player at 30-1. I'll tell you why I did it next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
The game is coming up in 15 minutes, so it's going to start before we get to In Pocket. I did officially make a bet on the Washington Nationals minus 130 today at home against the Kansas City Royals. Right now we go out to the Progressive guest line. We'll talk college football games of the year and U.S. Open betting, as well as professional sports bettor Paul Stone joins the program now on X at Paul Stone Sports. Hey, buddy, good to see you again. How are you?
Man, doing great. Great time of the year and good to be with you guys again.
Yep, same here. Good to talk to you as always. We have a bunch of outrights that we want to talk about for the U.S. Open this week, but shopping around, I think you found a really strong bet here, kind of in a derivative, and it's a finishing position with a golfer. What did you find? Where was it? And who do you like?
Well, it's on Xander Schauffele, and I mean, it's no secret that Schauffele's the majors are his game. I mean, that's he plays in the majors probably better than any other player on tour. No one's been more consistent than him, and found a finishing position under. I took the under 22.5 there at Caesars William Hill at minus 110. So he just needs to finish 22nd or better, and you would think he would have a good chance of doing that. In 34 career major appearances, 26 of those have been top 20s. So I've got Schauffele to finish under 22.5 in this week's U.S. Open.
Okay, and they have, I'm looking right now on the app, finishing position on what appears to be about 30 golfers in this event. Okay, let's start near the top of the card then. And with current numbers on the board, where are you starting your outright betting this week for the Open?
Well, I'll talk about a half a dozen, and I'll go through them pretty quickly here. Xander Schauffele, first of all, at 19-1, available, I believe, at William Hill currently. He's won 2 majors, both of those being in year 2024, won the PGA that year, won the Open Championship. Again, his consistency in the majors has been second to none. He hasn't won on the PGA Tour recently, hasn't won this calendar year. He last won in October of last year, PGA event there in Japan. But this week could be a battle of attrition, last man standing, so to speak. I think it really caters to Xander's disposition and his skill set. Looking at a similar player, Tommy Fleetwood, he's at 20-1. One of the metrics or statistics I think is really going to be key this week is strokes gained tee to green. Fleetwood ranks very high in that category. He has only one tour victory, that being this past fall when he won the tour championship to win the FedEx Cup there. But he's finished, in the money or close many times, including the last time the U.S. Open was played here at this week's site, Shinnecock Hills, back in 2018, finishing second place, one shot behind Brooks Koepka. So I've got Fleetwood at 20-1. Also have Matt Fitzpatrick at 20-1. Fitzpatrick playing as well as anybody pretty much in the sport at present, playing the best golf of his career, won the Valspar championship back in March, and then teamed with his brother Alex Fitzpatrick to win the team event there in New Orleans in April. And then he's off a second place finish this past weekend at the RBC Canadian Open. He won his only major back in 2022 when he won the U.S. Open there at the Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts, outside of Boston. So Fitzpatrick's game caters to the U.S. Open style of golf. So I like him. Russell Henley at 35-1 doesn't really wow you with his game, but he's very accurate off the tee. In fact, first in driving accuracy, 72% of fairways hit. So I've got him at 35-1. And then my favorite of these bets, based on the price and the player's talent, Patrick Reed, currently at plus 5,500 there at Circa. I got him at a little bit closer to 60-1. But this guy, first of all, kind of the wild card. He's only played in 2 events in the past 2 months, that being the Masters, where he tied for 12th. Tied for 10th a month later in the PGA Championship, but he's kind of been without a home. He opted earlier in the year not to renew his contract with the LIV Tour, played on the DP World Tour, formerly known as the European Tour, earlier this year, won 2 events there, and he actually still leads their order of merit over there, the race to Dubois. So he's kind of like the leading money winner in Europe, even though he hadn't been playing there. Guy's a magician around the greens, 35 years old, a perfect blend, in my opinion, of youth and experience. I think Patrick Reed could surprise this week, really like him. And then rounding out with Cam Young at plus 2,300, won the Players earlier this year, finished tied for third at the Masters. Just a good all-around player, really has come into his own in recent times. Cam Young at plus 2,300.
Good breakdown, my man. Excellent. What's your reaction and the reaction back there to the Sorsby news? And have you done anything with Texas Tech, please?
You know, I really hadn't played any futures relating to Texas Tech, Paulie. You know, this thing has gotten ugly. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to get uglier. Obviously, the Big 12 filed suit today against Texas Tech and Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. They're basically asking the federal courts to give them, I guess, the authority to exercise their bylaws and take potential punitive action against Texas Tech if they do indeed play Brendan Sorsby. I'll say this in general. Brendan Sorsby is not a top 5 collegiate quarterback. I mean, I know these people at Texas Tech and other places are excited about him, and they all share something in common. They've probably never seen him play. I think he's in that next range. I think he's in the 10 to 15 range, but he's not Trinidad Chambliss. He's not Arch Manning or Julian Sayin or Dante Moore, any of those guys. He's going to have better talent surrounding him at Texas Tech. So I think he'll have better production. But I actually only have a 3.5 to a 4-point difference from Sorsby to the potential backup Will Hammond, who suffered an ACL injury last October and may or may not be ready for the opening game of the year. But it's going to be interesting. A lot will be determined in the next week. He has until next Monday, June 22nd, to apply and enter his name in the NFL supplemental draft. So that would solve a lot of problems, I guess, if he did that. But I don't think he is. I mean, he's probably going to go in the second round at best if he goes into the supplemental draft. And he's got $5 million apparently in NIL money there at Texas Tech. I doubt he's going to turn his back on that. I just think it's going to be tough. If he elects to play and he does play, there's going to be so much scrutiny. There's going to be so much pressure. Every bad throw he makes, every interception he makes, the fans' reception is going to be quite negative. I think it's going to be a tough road to hoe. Going to be very interesting to watch as this continues to unfold.
Paul Stone, our guest here on the Progressive Guestline Professional Sports Bettor. Okay, so tell us where you found some games of the year in college football, and one game that you have in pocket already, and your advice to the audience here would be Ole Miss plus 9.5 against your Texas Longhorns. Why do you like them?
That's one of them. I've actually got 3 games if we've got time, that I've got in pocket. Ole Miss plus 9.5. I mean, maybe I'm missing a game last year, but I don't think anybody had a better individual performance in a game than Trinidad Chambliss, Ole Miss's quarterback, had last year in that quarterfinal victory, 39-34 over Georgia. I mean, he was under duress the whole night, just making plays, making throws, 362 yards passing. Texas, if you're going to beat them, you're going to have to deal with that edge rusher, Colin Simmons. I think he's the best edge guy in the nation. And Chambliss is the kind of guy who can do it. He can head up the field and he can negate that rush. They got outright victories, did Ole Miss last year as the betting underdog at Oklahoma and in that neutral site game against Georgia. So I like Ole Miss plus 9.5. We're getting 9.5 today. I don't think it's going to be 10 game week. I think it'll be closer to 7, maybe lower. So I took Ole Miss plus 9.5.
Okay.
You may go into a couple of others.
We have 90 seconds left here. You like BYU plus 10.5 against Notre Dame and also Michigan plus 6.5 against Indiana?
Correct. And I'll go over these quickly. BYU, I think they're being rated by some people. I think they're a borderline top 15 team.
Okay.
A lot of people back on defense. Bear Bachmeier back, true sophomore quarterback, had a huge freshman year. LJ Martin, the running back, 1,300 yards rushing last year. They're 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 as the betting underdog. They were supposed to play Notre Dame last year in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Didn't happen. I think they'll be looking forward to playing Notre Dame like BYU plus 10.5. And then Michigan getting 6.5 at home against Indiana. Also in mid-October. Indiana, it's been incredible what Kirk Cignetti's done his first 2 years there, winning the national championship this past season, 16-0. But they were plus 22 in turnovers last year. They were plus 15 in 2024. I don't think they're going to be quite that good in the turnover category with their new quarterback, Josh Hoover, who has 42 career turnovers in 33 career starts, all of those at TCU. I like Michigan as a home dog, plus 6.5 over the Hoosiers.
Very good. We snuck it all in. Follow him on X at Paul Stone Sports. Thanks, buddy. We appreciate that. Best of luck.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Good luck this week. Enjoy that U.S. Open.
In Pocket plays next. A former NBA player said he would bet his life on LeBron going to this team next year.